Welcome to Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about our beloved series, Star Trek. And now I'm going to start my audio recording if you guys are ready to do that.
I was already recording the audio because I was told last time. Recording. I was told to come in hot. That's what I was told.
Okay,
I said you gotta come in
recording
hot.
too.
Oh, I did.
Oh my goodness. You're so good. All right. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. Good job.
That's so unsynchronized.
What are we going to start with? The short treks, right? And then we'll do Dark Page after?
Whichever one you want. We'll talk about Picard in both anyway, so.
I know, it's true. Okay, so short treks it is. So does anyone want to do the introduction or should I do it?
It's your show, you do
Gary,
it.
I know, but Gary, you haven't been on in such a long time. Maybe you should do it. And we're back on another exciting episode. You know, that whole thing. Do you remember it?
Of course, I even though I wasn't here, I still remember. And I will watch the videos every now and then, so...
He's gonna muck it up. He's gonna say the wrong show.
No, I'd be honored
and
if
we're
you
back
do it.
with another episode of Star Trek Picard.
See, he doesn't know.
No!
No, I'll leave that for you. I'll leave that for you. I'm no one.
Fine. You're someone to me, bro. Quit it with that shit. All right, no, I'm just kidding. Wow. Anyways, we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today, we are focused on Star Trek Short Treks, 2 episodes. You get 2 episodes for the price of 1. We get Ephraim and Dot, and then the girl who made the stars.
That's a double whammy.
It's a double whammy, and I'm joined today by my fabulous co-hosts, Gary from Trekker Prize. See, Sean, you get bumped down when Gary comes on.
And I'm just the regular co-host.
You're the regular. Gary gets introduced first when he comes on, and then you get bumped down.
That's not fair because I'm not a regular anymore. I'm just jumping on whenever I can.
But you're the fabulous. I'm just the ordinary co-host.
Oh my goodness.
You know, the host is usually more kind to the guests.
And my fabulous other co-host, Sean from Trek on the TV.
Feels empty now, doesn't it?
It's like that mic had dropped a long time ago.
I also want to take a moment. We haven't been together in a long time, so I want to take a moment to acknowledge how... Oh, you just blurred.
Do I have to blur my background as well? Is this a thing?
You don't have to. It looks weird around
your headphones. I love it, though, actually. It's cool. It has this little... I don't even know how to switch it off, to be honest, but never mind.
Go listen to this show that only exists in 1 episode.
This one, too. Only exists in 1 episode, just yet.
You're a good host and a good guest, but you're a bad producer. That you've only done 1 episode.
That's how I do seasons. I do seasons of 1 episode. It's a new format.
Like Sherlock, I like it. Well, they only do 3 episodes, but
yeah. I'll do 1 episode of 16 hours a year, and I'll just end it.
I do want to take a minute to acknowledge that this is awesome to have the 3 of us together on here, and it's been such a long time. So Gary, thanks for making the time to come on. I also want to say, because this is a delight for the audience, we actually get comments about like, where's Gary, or where's Sean, or you're stupid, or things like that. But
not necessarily in this order, I suppose.
Not necessarily in this order, but we get lots of comments. So I think there's going to be a bunch of people who are delighted that the 3 of us are on here And then I also want to take a moment just to acknowledge, because the grief is pretty close to my heart still, and say that, officially on the show, that we are very saddened by the many losses that this year has brought us for Star Trek. And I hope that the rest of the year is uneventful and we don't lose any more of our precious people that are involved with Star Trek, especially Star Trek series of the past that are so beloved. And I'm talking specifically about Aaron Eisenberg, of course, who we lost earlier a few months ago.
Dorothy C. Fontana.
DC Fontana. Yeah. The actor who played Charlie, who I looked up earlier and I forgot, but he just passed away. And then, of course, Rene Auberjonois, who was like Aaron Eisenberg, he was so generous on Twitter with his time, and he engaged with so many of the fans and people who loved him and his performances. I actually knew about him as an actor from the show Benson. I think you guys probably have heard a lot about that show now that he's passed away, but it was a very funny show, a sitcom in America in the 80s, and when I was a little kid, I loved watching it. It was very entertaining with our family, so that one really felt like I lost a person who I've known all my life, so that was pretty rough. And then, of course, Marina Sirtis, who we're going to talk about a lot in our next discussion, lost her husband Michael Lamper. So it's just been like boom, 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 a lot of tragedy.
Yeah.
Okay, I started on such a down note.
I was like, thank you for coming by. And that's what
Thanks, bye.
This may seem completely unrelated, but you talk about, kind of knowing about Rene Auberjonois like since forever. And I've gotten to this point in my life now where I've been watching Top Gear, which is now the Grand Tour, since literally 2002. So I was 10 years old when I started watching these guys. So now they're moving on to the Grand Tour, and every year they're getting older. Like, legitimately, you can see that these people, they're hitting their 60s, or they're well into their 60s now. Eventually, one day, they will pass away, and I will be completely shattered, because I've just grown up watching these people.
It's hard. Yeah, it's funny the relationship we have.
I don't want to be sad in advance, but I'm just I'm just saying. You kind of develop these strange, I suppose, one-way relationships with these people, right? Especially for shows that you've watched since you're like so young and what have you. So, same goes for like the entire Voyager cast. I mean,
storytellers of all kinds, really, storification. We're going to talk a lot about that when we talk about this short trek, I think, when we talk about the Abathawa tribe and some of the things that are represented there. But, like, what actors and performers and communicators, people on TV, basically, in films, who are bringing us entertainment, quote unquote, or some people take it very seriously. It depends, on your perspective. But these are people that are the storytellers of our civilization, and that's why I think they have such revered positions in our lives, is because they help. Rene Auberjonois, when he performs as Odo really well, and it connects with people on a very deep level, that's something very powerful that not everyone gets to do or experience. So
Aaron Eisenberg particularly helped with a lot of people's grief, or his character did on Deep Space Nine. So,
yep. So, anyways, cheers to the fallen of this year. 2019 was a rough year. It took a lot of great people. So, cheers to everyone. And this is just a light concoction. Don't worry, we're not on Drunk Space Nine here.
This is just ginger ale. It's not even. But
it's just tea. Earl Grey. No, actually, it's peppermint, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, exactly. Cheers. All right, so now let's talk short treks, gentlemen. Who wants to do the summary? Which one should we do first? Which one do you guys want to do first?
Episode 5, sir. We will not do episode 6 before episode 5.
So is that
what is
that
episode
Ephraim and
5
Dot,
then?
right?
Ephraim and Dot?
So,
Ephraim and Dot, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The only official...
Great, we can get the one that I have the most...
I can designate that is because Star Trek is releasing these beautiful little posters, and the Ephraim and Dot has 08 on it, and the other one has 09. So that's how I know which one they
Well
intended
done,
as
Sean.
first.
Well done. You get to sit in the captain's chair.
Oh, do I?
And do the summary for Ephraim and Dot.
So I can't get the crappy night shift.
By the way, I have to ask: I know we don't talk too much about Baby on the Tube, but did you watch it with Baby? Was it safe for Baby on the Tube or not yet?
Well, we watched it after she went to bed, so I might try it and watch it with her. I won't watch The Golden Way of the Stars with her. Maybe, I don't know.
Too scary.
But
the snake.
Ephraim and Dot, I could try it. To be honest, yesterday she watched the Lady and the Tramp, the animated.
The original.
Yes.
Oh, she was spoiled
nice.
then.
I could go on for years about how beautiful that movie is.
This is the night. It's a beautiful night.
It's amazing. It came out in
And they
55.
call it Bella
Anyway.
Notte.
Yeah, no. So I might try Ephraim and Dot with her.
Okay. I think that one's safe for little people, little baby tube.
Little people.
Little, I said little people.
Yeah. Not. Yeah. Those that are not quite human yet, they're just babies. You know, they're kind of different.
They're not quite human.
That's such a
They're not
discrimination.
quite
Like,
human.
oh, you're just not a human.
Oh
You're just
my
like a
gosh.
baby now. It's like, what?
Baby.
This is
Just a baby.
terrible. It's not a human yet.
I thought
I rejected
I'd
until
follow up my slow people comment.
my internet drug
I
face
can
not used. You
do
influence
a
people.
recap. I can do a recap of Ephraim and Dot if you want.
Yes, please.
Although I got to admit, I'm not. I'm gonna need you guys to help me kind of understand the episode post recap.
Okay, got it.
A tardigrade is floating around in space, minding its
As
own,
one does.
minding its own business, trying to find a place to lay its eggs because it's got these eggs and they need to be kept warm and hot for a certain amount of time, which is, from what I understand, quite long. So they need to be safe and protected. When the Enterprise bumps into the tardigrade's rock.
Which is cold and solid, not something that you described before.
Unless it's radioactive. Could be a radioactive rock.
I don't know. Whatever.
Maybe.
It's
It wasn't glowing though. But you know.
it was probably a pretty freaking frozen rock. Anyway, it was clearly a wrong choice, but then a good choice comes along because the Enterprise bumps into this tardigrade and it has an engine.
Is that a good choice? The Enterprise?
Well, it's got an engine room, so it's hot. But
Yeah, but I don't know. Scotty left those eggs there for like 20 years. He should
we'll get to
have
that.
found that.
anyway,
He also forgot that room existed
Tardigrade decides
because
to
it
go.
still exists on the Enterprise and the Enterprise A apparently.
Tardigrade decides to go
And no one
into-
goes there except the robot. Sorry, go on.
Tardigrade decides.
Could you tell I got some gripes there? Go.
So you've already seen the episode.
Whoa.
That's the thing.
Hello.
Thank you. My mom brought me because I have
Oh, my
a
goodness.
cold, and so she brought me some green tea, which
He's
I'm
representing
so
Captain
happy.
Picard again. See,
That's
you're like the worst captain.
I'm so hype.
You're captain
And-
on your own bridge, and you're
Then-
representing some other captain.
then hang on. And he's inconsistent because he has an Enterprise refit there instead of a D. Like, you should be more consistent.
Wow, very nice, Gary. That was good. Hold on. You want the D? I'll give you the D.
Sean, I think this episode summary will take longer than the actual episode was.
Oh, that's
That's how it
terrifying.
usually goes.
There it is.
Put the D over.
But there
here.
you go. Like
He
make
brought
it
the
so.
D.
I brought the D. Here's my D, guys.
Good.
Take a look at my D. Is it
So
satisfying
how
you?
many people listen to this audio only?
A lot. I can't put the D on here. Hold on. It won't fit. All right.
Just let
Well,
it
There
go.
we go.
So if it
your
falls down,
hands
it
off
will
it.
separate. You know.
Sorry. All right, go on. You were doing a good job with the summary.
I was doing nothing. Anyway, the tardigrade enters the Enterprise, goes kind of like tries to find some sort of way to hatch its eggs, lay its eggs in some hot place, and a cat and mouse kind of game, a Tom and Jerry-esque kind of shenanigan starts occurring between so this tardigrade that apparently is named Ephraim and one of those robots, one of those droids that we saw repair the Enterprise in Discovery Season 2. I think it was like the finale or later in the
Exactly.
season. We saw those kind of
a little different
repair
design
droids.
too. This one has antlers.
Yeah, well, this tardigrade was green. They decided to not go with the traditional everything is blue vibe.
Or black. I think the other Ripper was like jet black.
Oh no,
right?
it was blue.
Which is funny because
Just-
the Eagle
if-
model came out as brown. So
Oh, that's cool. But if you're searching for a color in Discovery, it's usually blue. And,
that's your Windows 10,
This is- I
Windows
can't
10
argue.
desktop team
I
for
can't
you.
argue with that. That's absolutely true. There's a lot of blue in this. Like Pavo is the bluest episode.
so blue.
Of all.
It just it
Pavo.
shines blue. It's also not called pavo.
I know it's called Possum Dimitri Lamutra.
Suis Pacem Parabellum,
Civis
some shit. It's the
Parabellum.
episode I hate the most, but moving on. And so, anyway, so a cat and mouse game occurs through space and time, it would seem, where the short kind of plays fast and loose with kind of time and coherence and continuity and plays around with kind of iconic moments of the original series and the adventures of Captain Kirk. We see
like the giant green hand.
exactly, we see guest appearances from, like, I think it's the Doomsday Machine, is it?
Yeah.
not the big thingamajig. We see
Yeah, that's the Doomsday
and
We see Abraham Lincoln, gigantic space Abraham.
we see Khan. So there's events of many episodes happening. And eventually the Enterprise is destroyed because, we get into the TOS movie era and the Enterprise is destroyed. And Tardigrade is sad because Tardigrade thinks that all its eggs have gone, but no, Dot, which has been here all along, saved the eggs. And baby Tardigrades are hatched, and you have a happy little Tardigrade family with a space droid, which I suppose is just going to have to fly its way back to some sort of space station somewhere, or get captured by the
think
Romulans or something.
Ephraim
do a short from
Ephraim
just
takes
Dot.
Dot with her.
Oh, okay. So
Remember,
Dot
she
has
grabs onto her.
Dot has become the
The nanny.
the nanny. The nanny. That's so mean. Like the
Yeah.
second parent in this family, maybe.
Is it? Oh, the au pair. I'm sorry.
No. I think that Dot deserves more credit. Dot's not just the nanny. Dot, they're a parent. They're a family now.
Well, I wasn't just an au pair when I was living in Seattle in the beginning. I was other things, but I was au pairing as well.
So help Poppins.
You remember?
So this
Oh,
is
Gary.
this is a space au pair, though.
That's space au pair. Yeah, it's true.
Anyway,
Au pairs.
Anyway, that's
au pairing is a noble thing. Like, I actually am really good with taking care of children. I'm very much like a strict Picard. I take my cue
I
from
imagine so.
Picard. Child,
Child.
you will sit down
There
and
are
eat your
4
food and do
plates.
your homework. What? What was that?
There are 4 plates.
There are 4 plates. It's true. Well done. Anyways, great summary.
That was it.
It didn't last the whole episode.
So my question is, I'm gonna start this off straight off the bat. My question is,
Okay.
Is this basically all from like Ephraim's perspective or like the Tardigrade's perspective? So are we seeing like all of these shifts in time from like this thing's perspective?
I think this is what would that be called? Third person omniscient narrator perspective. I think we're the ones watching this go on, but we are following Ephraim as she jumps through, or I don't know if she's a she or he, actually, we don't know tardigrade gender dynamics. But
There's laying eggs, so I'm going to assume it's female. I don't know how that. I don't know how tardigrades
that
in
might
real
not be
life
true.
work.
In the show Alien Nation, which was very popular in the 1980s, I think, in the 90s. One of the most controversial things was that the aliens it's not controversial today, but back then people were like, the male aliens were the ones that gave, like, you know, went into term and gave birth to their
the Orville
species.
have that.
What?
The Orville have that.
The Orville have that.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
They have a race of only males, but not really.
We have our Orville expert here,
we do. We have
actually.
a resident Orville expert.
What is that? What is that character?
Bordus.
Huh?
What's his name? What's the name of his race? Bordus? Moclan. There we go. The Moclan.
I would not call myself an expert.
I thought you were going to say I wouldn't call myself a Moclan.
I wouldn't call myself a Moclan either.
You don't lay eggs.
But yeah, that's an interesting the way the presentation. I think if you just think about going back to the Tom and Jerry reference that you made at the beginning, which kind of everyone came to the same conclusion on social media. I can imagine that just we are basically being the one person who peeks in the window and see the cat and the mouse doing their job, doing their crazy catch and run around game. Basically we be in the same situation, because when Ephraim was out at one point, Dot was inside, and we've seen what's happening inside, and Ephraim was out. So it's like I think we are just getting interacted with both characters at the same time as an observer perspective.
I agree. I also think that it was done well to do that, because we do get, it's not only from Ephraim's perspective, because Dot is like a character we empathize with and see Dot's perspective is like, it just wants to make sure this like foreign, its job is to make sure the Enterprise is okay. And it's like, Dot represents like a rodent, basically, like if a rat came on board or like a mouse or something, and so Dot's whole thing is like, oh, let me get rid of this like pest. But then we see at the end where Dot actually realizes, okay, I'm not going to be able to do anything, but I've just identified these life forms. And now that the ship is going down, now that my mission is over, it like conveyed its own free will, and it like saved these tardigrades and then ended up, helping them to survive. And I kind of love that. That's those are the things that I loved about this. What I loved about this episode was like that whole sentiment of like misunderstandings and like, these two characters were so caught up in their missions, it's very simple, but it's like really nice, like all Ephraim wanted was to like take care of its babies, and all Dot wanted was to keep the Enterprise clean and repaired and all this stuff, and then it's framed against this landscape of this familiar beloved events in Star Trek. Like, I do love that it went through all those things. I just can't help it, like, it doesn't affect my overall enjoyment of the episode, as I said in a tweet, but there's a part of me that's like, how could you get the thing about the Enterprise A wrong? It's like, like I'm even willing to forgive the engine room being in the wrong Enterprise and like the wrong, I get it. It's a cartoon. There's a part where like a pipe sucks Ephraim up. That's impossible physics wise. Like, cartoons are supposed to be like that, and this is like the most cartoony cartoon. It's so different from The Girl Who Made the Stars, which seems a little more like they pay attention to physics, if you will, and things like that. Like, so at the end of the day, like I can't really complain, because I was touched by it. I actually got teary-eyed at the end when I saw that Dot saved the little tardigrade babies.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I did. I totally got emotionally invested.
That's incredible.
Two kinds of emotions: severe anger and extreme sentiment were present at the same time.
So I'm going to try and explain this I'm going to try and explain this to you so that maybe you're not as mad. But then it won't correct all of the inconsistencies, all right?
I need my anger. I need my hate, Cybok. You can't take it away.
I can't fix the engine. I can't fix the engine room problem because so the Enterprise gets a refit, but the engine room stays the same, and I can't fix that in any way because the eggs.
I can.
The eggs remain
I already
in
fixed
there.
it. I fixed it.
Oh, really?
Everything on the Enterprise is modular, so the main engineering from the pre-refit Enterprise becomes an auxiliary engineering on the refit Enterprise, and they put it in like the shuttle bay for some reason.
But they didn't notice the eggs. No.
Of course not. Scotty doesn't pay attention to that.
And then not to mention, Dot recognizes the eggs as tardigrade eggs, but it didn't recognize the alien as tardigrade. So, but yeah, go on. I'm just listening.
No, I think that because some of these episodes, episodes are all jumbled together. Like you see Khan from Space Seed, and then you see kind of this Sulu with the sword, which is I forget which episode that is.
The Naked Now.
Okay, so these two episodes don't happen at the same time at all, but they seem to happen like literally at the same time, because the tardigrade just doesn't even change time period. It just goes from one place on the ship to another and then sees this happening. But maybe the tardigrade's like view of our dimension, because he can travel through they can travel through like spores, mycelium network and everything. Maybe it's non-linear, and they perceive time in a very different way, and so they kind of perceive the entire like lifespan of the Enterprise kind of in a non-linear fashion.
So you're saying the episode is definitely from Ephraim's perspective, and that would explain away all the incongruities, and I'm actually down with that. I'm down with that.
If you were to flip it and take it from Dot's perspective, it would simply be chronological time happening, and then every now and then there's like a tardigrade that just pops up and is like doing all of this thing sporadically, but there's like huge gaps of nothing happening for this robot. And so the robot develops feelings, if you will, because the relationship spans over 20 years. Like every now and then there's this recurring tardigrade that kind of pops up into this.
It grows. It
robot's
grows
life.
like Data's, like how Data, like his sensor inputs are, will miss the regular interaction of the tardigrade, so after a while
I don't
it
like
becomes
the
used
idea
to you.
Though that this droid essentially is kind of sentient, because we're kind of going into Star Wars territory here. Not that I don't want Star Trek to be like Star Wars. My issue isn't with that. My issue is with like, can we use these droids just to fix the ship if they're sentient, if they can develop actual feelings to save other beings and other stuff like that, then you kind of have a situation where, like, they made an entire TNG episode about these little robot thingies,
the exocomps.
Yeah, there's an entire episode about that, and so I don't feel like it makes sense for Star Trek to have these. So I want
to talk about that because something came up on Twitter in my Twitter journeys. I know we all have our respective Twitter journeys this week, and you guys, I saw a little bit of like you guys were heavily involved in some crazy action this week.
Oh, Gary Twitter. And I, we got the pitchforks out now.
Oh yeah,
it's like, but I had some of my own Twitter journeys. I don't expect you to have.
Gary took his shirt off. He's like,
no, I wouldn't do that. That would be like throwing me off from every social media platform straight away.
Someone was saying like they don't like the idea of Dot existing at all. They think that like for them Star Trek was not a show that relied on robotics. And I always thought one thing that was interesting is I think that there's room for robotics in Star Trek, but they're kind of like not really. It's like how like we don't really tend to notice some of the technology, like very basic, but like a toaster or like it's not something we're like conscious of. It just does its job and that's it, right? And I always wondered, like, there's there's got to be like a reason why like you never really see like the Enterprise, except for in I think Star Trek Enterprise. You don't really see people making repairs externally ever in Star Trek before Enterprise, right? Like no one goes out and like seals battle damage.
But only when they make
of
a
the
thing
ship
of it.
or
Like only
anything
when, say, Voyager will want to make a thing about it. You know, they might send someone on the hull of
Oh,
the
so
ship.
Voyager
because-
does. So Voyager does do
Maybe
stuff like that.
I'm not saying they do. I don't remember correctly.
Oh, okay.
but
Voyager
if-
did once. I think once or twice they actually landed in a planet with the ship, and then they did some repairs
Oh, they
outside.
do,
But
yeah.
that
Oh,
was in
great,
different
okay.
circumstances. Of
again,
course.
they're making a thing about
But we
it. They want to
know-
make a thing about how the ship can
Right.
land and what
Yeah.
have you.
Right. What we have seen in Star Trek before Enterprise, because I know there is on Enterprise, you definitely see spacewalks and they're on the hull and they're like doing shit, like whatever. But before that, you had the damage. It was sealed from the inside, either by what we assume is human crew people, right? Like, or not sorry, human. That's so racist. But like, crew people. Like,
He's a xenophobic person.
so, I'm so human centric. I hate it. I'm so sorry. I'm trying so hard, guys,
I'm offended.
not to be a humanist.
The Andorian in me is offended.
I know. I can tell. I can see that. You turned blue
And
when I said that.
and the Beta Z in me can sense this too.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk with
Oh my
you
God,
about
the
that
tie-ins.
episode.
The tie-ins.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. But to finish my point, I guess we've seen like repairs being done from the inside, and then they go to a star base, and then they get the repairs done there. Like that's kind of like the routine we've seen. But in deep space missions, I think robots that don't necessarily look like Dot, but I could believe something that's more like a little mini shuttle pod or with arms, which we have seen, or like, something like the exocomps even. So I don't object to Dot being a thing. Like I believe there were robots that did these kinds of things, but now we have an emphasis on it because obviously, especially in a child presentation, a cute little robot is like so flash right now. That's like the thing. You want to like little kid. If a little kid wanted robots in Star Trek, this is like the perfect thing for them. So I kind of like it from that perspective, even though it doesn't like necessarily fit. It does kind of fit because I do believe robotics were used in the making. Now you were saying that like you disagree with the whole sentience thing. It's a cartoon. We don't have any evidence that Dot in the adult part, in Discovery is sentient in any ways. This little robot comes out, Dot 7, and it does its job, and we have no clue that it's sentient.
Maybe it's
but
just
in cartoons it makes
maybe it's just programmed to do this as well. I mean, we make it like we kind of, I don't know, we
anthropomorphize.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
we
word.
make it sentient in our minds, but maybe
yeah,
it isn't.
exactly.
Maybe it was programmed to do this. But I know what you mean. Like the ships in Star Trek are always very clean. Like there has to be something, friggin'
keeping it that way.
Keeping it clean, cleaning the walls, cleaning the picking up the dust, whatever. There has to be something doing that, and I'm assuming it's not someone has been demoted or whatever.
I mean, if it was my ship, it would be demoted people.
Oh, that's it.
You're on cleaning duty.
I'll be on cleaning duty every day.
I want to eat my breakfast off the bulkhead.
Imagine
This is the worst.
species.
No one wants Captain Starfleet, boy. Dude just throwing his pieces of his bacon and eggs on the ground every morning. Just pick it up.
I feel like you're expressing some weird fantasies of yours. Note to self.
Anyway, no, I understand what you mean. It makes sense that there's these Roomba type things that they're automated and they kind of roam around the ship picking stuff up, and same things for repairs. Maybe because there would need to be system verifications and checks all the time. Like you don't just repair a ship once it's broken. You've got to constantly check that all the wiring's working and all of your whatever, all of your Wi-Fi's up to date, whatever. So it makes sense to have little robots kind of go around the place. But I don't know about the sentient thing. I would also like to see a Deep Space Deep Space Nine TOS crossover kind of episode, where you take an episode from the original series.
It's called the Trials and Tribulations.
Well, they took the Deep Space Nine episode, the original series episode, and kind of added elements to it. so that it seems that you didn't see the entire truth the first time around.
Right.
And I think that would be interesting to do, where maybe you could do a short trick where you literally just recut and re-edit footage from an original series episode to feature the adventures of, say, a Dot type robot, and then that way I could kind of better integrate them into that time period.
How many of you seen WALL-E? Disney Pixar, quite
I
old.
love that. Hold on.
I've seen WALL-E.
Okay, so there was, there was a mini
he's gone to
episode.
get them.
What? You have the big?
He has the WALL-E.
Wally.
I hate you now.
Wally.
That's super awesome.
That's for the rest of the episode. This is gonna be me. Hi, guys.
The character design in that movie is amazing.
Well,
right,
the reason why
had to go
that's a fantastic model, by the way. But the reason why I brought it up because I think after WALL-E they produced a short. I forgot the name of the character,
exactly.
but
It's Bernie.
Bernie, yeah. And then they
That's
basically
an amazing short.
It's amazing
I
short.
I haven't seen Burn E.
Log
you
on to
have
Disney
to.
Plus, boy.
Oh,
You have
nice.
to watch it. It's basically the same thing that Sean just described about how it would be interesting to see just a short episode of tying in and having some consequences that you didn't see, but that is happening aside the main events. And it's basically the same thing while Wally and Eve, they are going on their adventure, and then he's doing some things. It's just hilarious.
It starts off. It ties into the movie because Wally's very dirty, and so he kind of dirties the ground with all his it's not his dust, but it's his mud and everything.
Yeah.
And so you see this little guy called
uncontaminated.
Bernie. Yeah, you see this guy called Bernie kind of clean it up behind him in the movie, but then the short actually kind of diverges off, and you see Wally and Eve going on and doing their thing, and then it just follows this guy, and he continues to clean, and he's just cleaning stuff, and he's just...
No, hang on. No, Bernie is not that one. Bernie is the one who actually has to replace one single light in the outside.
Oh, okay, sorry. I
And he
remember
goes back 3 times, and the service bot is just so annoyed with him. Like,
Wow.
it's fantastic.
That I get that vibe though. Like you're bringing up Wally is a perfect. There was definitely dot 7 has that vibe. Like kind of looks like Eva.
No.
That.
No.
Wally feels like The Expanse, and Eve feels like The Orville.
What?
Now you put it that way.
You mean dot? Are you talking about the dot 7?
What are you looking for?
How do you know I'm looking for something?
Well, you've gone all silent. The captain's gone silent.
I'm trying to.
Well,
I know, I'm trying to put something on, but
if you
all right, I'll find it.
If you don't have it, I will send it to you.
Thank you.
Don't ask me how.
In my
He's got the Disney Plus. Don't worry about it. He's got everything.
Of course.
In my notes, I wrote my favorite scene in Ephraim and Dot. Despite the incorrect registry of A on the Enterprise, I really loved seeing the destruction of the Enterprise and how we saw from a different angle. Because when I was a little kid, it was like the Enterprise falling to the Genesis planet, and Kirk and McCoy and Scotty, Sulu, and Chekhov watching it, burn through the atmosphere, and he's like, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And it's like what you always do, turn death into a fighting chance to live. I loved seeing it from space and watching the Enterprise like actually plummet to the surface of the Genesis planet as the sun was rising, and then you see the explosion, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now. And I think that, like, to me was like something that they really nailed in terms of an emotional connection and like trying to show these highlights throughout the time. And I wondered also when I was watching it if it wasn't kind of a way of like saying, hey guys, like death and life are a part of Star Trek, and like the death of the Enterprise as we love it or know it.
I don't think they meant that.
There's always going to be an.
It's very beautiful, but I don't think they meant that.
You're like that's not what it was. Anyways, I heard
they just blew it up because it's cool.
I heard those kinds of subtexts when I was watching that scene, and I want to take a minute to say that, like, I actually loved that Michael Giacchino directed this. This is his second attempt at directing, and also that he scored it. I really love Michael Giacchino's take on Star Trek's music, and here you really hear it, and he actually like does such a good job of creating something that's original but mixing stuff from the lore or the canon of music, if you will, and bringing it into this to hit an emotional note. And he's a composer that has also gone over to Star Wars, as we know.
He's done a lot of things.
So yeah, he's done a lot. He's a really great composer. I think he's a great. I wouldn't, want to name anyone as John Williams' successor, because that's up to John Williams to do. But I do think he's in the same school, or the same, he's kind of like the same kind of composer as John Williams, and he does like a great job at like bringing something to lifting something up with his music to a whole new level. And I think the music in this episode really lifted this episode to a whole new level for me. No comment from the peanut gallery. Thanks, guys.
I do agree that the music is very good in this episode, especially because it relates so well to like the action and everything that's happening. And this is most definitely because he composed and directed. So, I mean, he's basically making a music video for his track, right? So he's connecting these things in a way that maybe it's not as fluid or not as organic if you have two separate people, even if they work closely together. This is one mind.
Now he can visually just express himself both visually and
exactly
and musically. So
that was great.
It's a beautiful thing to do.
It was nice. It was a nice short, but it wasn't, the inconsistencies are kind of big and baffling, I think, to a lot of people, because even a lot of people that I've seen online usually have kind of a no complaint kind of attitude towards everything Discovery related. Came out of this one kind of, and this kind of includes you, I suppose. Now that we've hit season 2, like season 2 was a no complaint zone for you.
It's true. I was like tens every episode almost, right?
You come out of this one and you're kind of like, but this is different, see, because this isn't Discovery kind of standing on its own. This is, I suppose, more an homage or showing you things that have already happened that are very dear to you. And so when they kind of come out a little changed, now you understand why I am cross. Now you are on my side. See, you understand my perspective of why I am physically hurt.
Sounds like the Emperor. Every voice in your head has been me.
You feel the power of the hatred, the young one.
Ooh, that's really good. Wow, that's creepy. Creepy on the tube.
You see what I mean now. This is why
I have seen what you mean, because
happen. Like the Enterprise being different makes me sad, and this time it was the same for you. Just having the A there.
But Sean, it's not just this time. Like, I would like you to recall many times through season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, where I also felt similar feelings. I just thought that we'd be past that by now. I thought like the people helping to make these things. I can't imagine like hundreds of people make these things, and one person didn't notice.
A canon panel.
Like there wasn't one person
coherence panel.
Yeah, like but like not one. An animator, someone, just anyone, like no one said, "Oh, that shouldn't be the A." And then also, it's the easiest thing to freaking fix. Room. It's all animation. Well, in the engine room, I can tie it into your.
I think it's harder I think it's harder to fix an animated short than like CG on a live action. To be honest, I think.
Why?
Because
Why do you say that?
CG takes like twice as long it takes twice as long to make an animated short than it does a live action one. Believe me,
it's worth it to me. If I were the producer, if I put my money into this,
I agree. If I put my name on the project,
it would be worth it to me to fix a mistake. So I hope it gets fixed, because it can. There's nothing that says you can't. It's just ego. If you're objecting to fixing a mistake like this, it's just ego. It has nothing to do with like resources. There's plenty of resources available to fix this. It's very easy.
I don't want to launch a big debate. All right, I really don't. I just want to take this one sentence that you said. It's just ego if you don't want to fix it, and I want you to relate that to the aesthetics of the Klingons in Discovery. It's just ego.
But you can't fix it because that's way more messed up than this one. No, that's like they've gone deeper than this episode. You can't change the makeup because it's printed. I would say, do you know what I'm saying? Like that's harder.
You could have dropped lines about that they were different or that they were from a different place. You could
still
verbally fix it.
You can still do that.
Ego to not do
All you need is for Mary Chieffo to record a scene that says, "I can't stand those Klingons that look like humans with their human fingers." With their human fingers. I want clawed fingers. Where are my clawed fingers? No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're trying to pin me on, and that's okay. You can try to pin me on that, but this is different. It's one episode. That is a lot more fixing. It's a lot more. It's a little more complicated.
I don't want to get bogged down. It is similar. To me, it's the same thing. I have the same sentiment.
To me, this is one little fix. Just take the A out, guys. Just take it out. Just take the A out. Everything's all right.
Well, the engine room's still
everything.
Wrong.
But you can kind of, with your earlier argument, you can say, well, from
his perspective is muddled, and so the vision is kind of
muddled.
Flawed.
So yeah, it's all it could that I could dig with that. But the A, like Ephraim shouldn't even know. But it's okay, whatever. I don't know. Scotty was drunk when he was inspecting the engine room. He had too much whiskey, and he never saw the eggs. I mean, that's a thing that could have happened.
It's Scotty from Star Trek V that's doing the inspection. So it's Scotty that doesn't know the Enterprise and gets knocked out by like the ceiling and everything. That's Scotty.
I love that Scotty. I love all the Scotties. There be whales here. There be tardigrades here, Admiral. There be tardigrades. There be tardigrades in me engine room.
What? Why are you adding?
I wonder if that little robot saved the tardigrades, or if they went down with the ship. Will they be reborn on the Genesis planet like Spock was? That's such a bad Scottish accent. I apologize to all the Scottish. Gary, who lives in Scotland, I apologize to you for doing such a terrible Scottish accent.
You are a resident Scottish.
I'm not Scottish. I have nothing to do with
that. But you're in Scotland.
I just live here.
If you're living in Scotland, then you're a Scot laddie. That's how it is.
You're a Scot. You're a Scot. You're a resident Scot.
Well,
you're in Scotland.
It's in your blood now.
Wow. Oh. Our accents are so bad. All right, I think we do we have any more notes, Gary? Do you have anything else to add to this before we wrap up the Ephraim and Dot part of the discussion?
There's too many things at the same time and too little at the other hand, because the basic thing is with who is this episode targeted for? Kids, not for us to dissect the whole thing. I enjoyed it in one point. As a child myself, enjoyed it, like, you know, the tardigrade and the robot just like chasing each other through time and space. Fantastic. The references for, you know, knowing the show, it's amazing. And for a kid who never seen Star Trek before, just see this one short is like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, you know, they're just gonna get curious, like, oh, what was that? And, you know, their parents, they can explain that, hey, actually that was the Doomsday Machine, or that was Abraham Lincoln from that episode, or that was, you know, the big green hand that grabbed the Enterprise. In a sense, it was if you're totally new to Star Trek and you're a kid and you watch this for a first time, it's probably going to be entertaining, and you don't gonna, you know, jump on the bandwagon and saying that, like, oh, it wasn't the A, or it's like, oh, why the ship look different, or why the engine room, which totally valid points if it's targeted for, you know, for 30 plus people, for like hardcore fans, which in a sense it was targeted for hardcore fans, but it wasn't targeted for hardcore fans at the same time, if you know what I mean. What I felt a bit puzzled by, it was how it was an animation, and they put the original series characters in there with the original series, you know, aesthetics in some point, and they had Discovery Bridge, but then the Enterprise itself was the Pike Enterprise from Discovery, and then the Enterprise A the Enterprise A was the TOS original Enterprise refit. So they could have just done the original Enterprise as long as it's an animation. For me, that was one of the points, and I was like, okay, they upgraded the original Enterprise, but they didn't upgrade the refit. I was like, how is the two fit together? That was my point. I really enjoyed the music. I think that was brilliant, as both of you mentioned it. It was a fun little short. What I do think it would be nice from the studio to get away from is this whole Discovery pushing tardigrades and stuff, because leave it for Discovery, but do something else. I felt a bit forced, like, oh, tardigrades in space, like this is like a secret commercial for Discovery season 3, like tardigrades in space. I get it. It's funny for kids because it's a creature, not a human, going around, but they could have done, like, I don't know, something else. I mean, the animated series is full of wonderful creatures that I'm pretty sure if they would update for a bit of a bit, it would be more relatable for kids. And I'm a bit puzzled with the animation style too. I kind of felt that it's basically going between 2D and 3D at the same time. It was a bit of an interesting thingy going on, and of course Kirk and Spock and the companies, the people who were represented in this episode for a short couple of seconds, obviously the main focus wasn't on them, but I didn't feel that they would have developed the characters a bit more, but I think in terms of animation style I would prefer the one that they will do for Lower Decks. That looks a bit more like consistent in terms of design and animation style. So far what we've seen from the pictures, that's more appealing to me than this was. However, I still liked it. I don't know if it answers your question or just raised new ones. I'm not sure.
No, it's great. Well, no, I think we all kind of have reached a consensus. I pretty much agree with what both of you were saying, and I really like that you brought it back to the notion that yes, this is the target audience is children, and most children are not going to notice all the little nitpicks that we would notice, but at the same time, like how you said that it is and it isn't for hardcore or whatever, even just casual fans. It is for the fans. It's kind of a love letter to Star Trek in the sense that it does hit all the emotional notes that you want to see. In concept, it's pretty beautiful. So yeah, I agree. I think that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah,
I kind of agree.
I mean, and if I really want to nitpick here, because obviously I could do nitpicking as well, but I try not to. But there's one thing that they made the Enterprise A, but the layout on the top dish, it was totally off center. Like,
oh yeah,
it was the whole writing within this other side, like in 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock position.
we can actually illustrate it, because if you look here, this is the direction that, I don't know if I'm getting a good focus, but that's what the underside of the refit.
Yeah, but that writing was just in the it depends on where you watch and where you're seeing it from. I mean, it can be 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or whatever.
Oh, look at that!
There you go.
Gary, you can do this?
It wasn't me.
There you go. You can see it from here.
Oh, Sean, good job! Good job, number one.
For those that are following my mouse, it should be written.
But take
here,
it off the screen. We're gonna get in trouble. Get that shit off the screen.
Oh my
number
goodness!
one.
How do I do it?
Get it off.
Sorry.
Get it off the
Sorry,
screen.
There you go. Have I stopped? Yes, I stopped.
Yeah, it stopped. No, but your point is well made.
I have a question for you guys, which is this is ridiculous, but I try to relate every short treks to a main show, because they said that all of these short treks won't necessarily be Discovery centric. So up until now, it would seem that like the 7 episodes that we've had are Discovery centered, because it focuses on characters that we've seen in Discovery, etc. Even I would say that the Harry Mudd one is a Discovery centered one, because it happens during the Discovery era. Is this an original series episode centered short, or a Discovery? Because it does have the tardigrade, but it follows Kirk through the Kirk era and the Kirk era Enterprise continuity issues aside. I think it's both.
I think it's meant to further connect the two. I think it's meant to further say it's just one thing. It's not. I know we delineate ourselves we're always making delineations like the Discovery. I definitely do it. The Discovery era, the TOS era, the TNG era, the Voyager era, the the Enterprise era. Like, but I think as far as like what is actually happening, it's all one thing.
If you were to connect it to one show, however,
I would say that this is obviously a spawn of Discovery.
Okay.
Because of the tardigrade.
I kind of had this feeling, but of course the following episode proves me wrong. But I had this feeling that at the being that watching that, okay, now we basically have the Discovery-related tardigrade, and then we have the Pike Enterprise, and then we have Kirk on the bridge, and then we going into the movie era and movie Enterprise and so on. That maybe with the short track series they departing from the Discovery era and they're gonna do something else in the future. But again, in the next episode we're gonna get like going back before the whole Discovery malarkey started happening. So that was just.
What are you saying? Children of Mars.
Children of Mars is gonna be a prequel for Picard, as everyone said that. Now this one was basically, I don't know. It's like a common mismatch of TOS and going into the TOS era. And I was thinking maybe that with these two episodes they're gonna just depart from the Discovery era and do something else in the future seasons. But again, no one knows at this point. And this is just a speculation from myself.
That's the objective.
Let's give it a rating so we could talk about The Girl Who Made the Stars, which is I know it's going to be a shorter discussion, but you guys good with wrapping up Ephraim and Dot?
That's fine. That's good.
I do want to say I like that Ephraim is similar to Zephram. It's spelled the same way minus the Z, and Ephraim does.
An I.
And there's also an I in Zephram.
No,
isn't there?
No, I don't think so.
All right, whatever. My bad. Okay. But it sounds phonetically it sounds similar. Ephraim, Zephram, they sound similar.
Somewhat, yeah.
Even though some people are saying Ephraim.
Oh, there's no P in it. Zephram is just ZEFRAM, and then Ephraim is like EP.
So you've connected dots that don't exist. So.
It sounds the same, bro. It sounds the same. Anyways, I give this episode, Short Treks episode 8. Did you say number 8? Is this the 8th episode?
This is the 8th episode. Yes.
I give the 8th episode an 8 because it was a solid attempt. It didn't quite live up to what my standards are. Like, if I were making this for my children, I would have been a lot crazier about these little details. But at the same time, I was still, like I said, I was still delighted. I was still chuffed, pleased. I was smiling. I had tears in my eyes. And overall, as a presentation, it was really sweet. I can't help but say that, it was like that. So an 8 for Starfleet Boy.
Is it you or is it me?
It's you.
Okay, I give it a 6. I give it
Gary
a 6.
always likes the last word. A 6?
Yeah.
Great. That's better than a 5. That's more than a 5.
It is.
So above average.
It's also more than a 4. Cool. We can do this all day.
Wow, you're so dark today. Dark page of Sean.
Mirror Universe version.
Gary, what's your rating?
I'm a bit hesitant because I understand both of you, and I don't want to be like giving a 7 because that's like just unfair. And I think
if that's how you feel, Gary, follow your feelings.
Do what you feel, bro.
No. Okay, hear me out. So I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure some of you remember. Well, I'm pretty sure you remember when I back in the days when I was in last time it was like season 1 Discovery, and I think and even afterwards I mentioned that I never watched any Discovery episodes or Short Trek episode twice. I actually watched this one today again. So this was the first Short Treks, and ever since Discovery came out that I watched twice. And I wasn't smiling. I wasn't getting so many this is so amazing vibes from the first time and the second time. But I watched it and I enjoyed it. So I'm kind of leaning towards 8 as well. But that being said, that's a really weak 8 from me.
Okay, a weak 8.
That's
I like
almost,
that.
that's almost a
Is
6.
that like a 7.9? Is a weak 8 a 7.9, or is it like a 8
No, he said,
point
he said,
negative?
no, he said it's almost a
What?
6. He said a weak 8 is almost a 6, whatever that means.
Oh my god,
So that means
Gary,
technically I gave
you're
a- technically I gave
transcending.
a 7.
You're transcending the laws of physics with your number theory here. It's very interesting.
I
Are you?
said I don't want to say 7, so I gave a weak
Okay.
8 that's almost close to a 6. So basically, I gave a
So,
7.
so a solid 8, a weak 8, and a 6. I'd say that it's safe to give this episode a solid 7. What do you guys think?
I agree.
That makes
Between
sense.
the three
that
of
makes
us,
sense.
solid
that
7.
makes sense.
Awesome. All right, so we've definitely been talking about this episode way longer than I thought. So now that we're gonna move into the girl who made the stars, I feel like we should try to set a time limit of 30 minutes. Do you guys agree?
I'm gonna I can do a quick recap. If I'm,
All right, you do a recap. You go do the recap.
Child Burnham is in bed. This is just before I think her parents are attacked and killed by Klingons, etc., etc. So this is
No, it's like way before.
way before. They're
Yeah,
already
because
doing
they're on a space
experiments.
station. They're not on a base.
Don't interrupt, otherwise it's gonna
Okay,
go on
whatever.
half
Okay,
an hour.
sorry.
Child Michael Burnham is in bed and is scared to go to sleep. And needs reassuring by her father. Father Burnham comes in and decides to tell her a story.
Father Burnham. I like
Father
that.
Burnham comes in, decides to tell her a
I
little
like Father
story to
Burnham. He
reassure
should
her.
be
And so
his official name.
he tells her the story of the girl who made the star. This is a little African girl in. So this is
The
basically
Ka'am Abathawa tribe.
Okay, so this is basically a little, I don't know if it's like a folk tale or a legend that is basically transmitted from generation to generation. And he tells her about this little girl that created the stars. And so we follow, in a very Princess Bride manner, the adventures of both Burnham in bed with her father, telling the story and the story itself. And there you go. That's it. Now we can talk about the episode.
That was
longer
really
than I
good,
thought.
as a shirt. Yeah. It's like,
This
Little
connects
Sohail.
directly to the opening of season 2 of Discovery, by the way.
Which I loved. This is like a prequel in a sense.
This is why
animated prequel.
Burnham opens Star Trek Discovery season 2 talking about like this tale of a woman in Africa who made the stars and etc. etc. And this ties directly into
girl.
that.
It was a girl
She's
specifically.
recounting the story that
It
her
was
father
a girl
told.
who made the stars.
Yes, well, I mean, in Discovery, did she say girl in Discovery?
Yeah.
Okay.
The girl who made the star. The title is an exact. It's an exact. Taking from that line.
I see.
She goes, "The girl who made the stars." Yeah. She's like the Ka'am Abathawa
And
tribe. Tell the
it's an
story
interesting-
about the girl who made the stars.
It's an interesting
like,
tale
like that.
because it's not very science fiction at all. It's very fantasy, actually. It tells of like a beast that brings darkness, and there's like a kind of alien presence that landed on the ship, crash landed with its ship on the.
A little bit like E.T.
Yeah,
A little
and
E.T. thing going on there.
This being basically tells this girl that the lightness is inside her, and she can share that lightness and create kind of the stars in the universe, and she helped light up the night, and she also slayed the beast, or slew the beast, slaughtered
Which
the beast.
is inside of us all. The beast
Slin-
is fear.
slain.
It's a very allegorical. I would say that this is an allegory. Like these things that are real in the thing represent something very internal. The night, the darkness represents our fear. The fear that Kid Burnham is experiencing with the ion storm going on outside the space station. Later on, when they get killed, they're on a star base, not on a space station. They're on a base on a planet, if you remember. So this is before. This is like, just saying. No, you did a great job. I really loved, I'm going to say it from the start, this episode. I loved it a lot more than Ephraim and Dot. I love this kind of animation, that Pixar type of, realism that, you know, like basically like that if you look at the characters, especially would you call him Father Burnham?
Father Burnham.
Father Burnham looks more, you know, he looks more like less like a caricature and more almost, you know, realistic in a sense. There's a lot.
They could have done like they could have put in a little more effort in having Father Burnham resemble Father Burnham the actor. And Charles
but
Burnham,
he does.
And Charles Burnham, well,
and by the way, the
yes
actor is
no,
Sonequa Martin Green's husband.
Yes, it is. But
in real life, so
so
he's like basically his wife's character is his daughter. It's really weird.
It's close enough for us to kind of connect them. But
yes.
This is not a complaint in any way, because like if you take the animated series Kirk, he looks close enough to William Shatner for you to kind of, you know, but it's not the same. Like. So this is fine. I know that.
That's actually one thing I would have loved.
Didn't like it.
Not a critique, but just like a what could have been. I would have loved it if during the TOS era that they actually copied in the previous one, Ephraim and Dot. They copied the style exactly of the animated series. Like that would have been neat if like during that
you're talking
part
about
of
the other episode again.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I just because you made me think about it. Anyways, coming back to this episode, the other thing I really loved is that I'm very fascinated with prehistory, like before written history of humans, because if you guys ever seen that series Ancient Aliens, have you seen that? Like with the guy with the crazy hair? Have you ever heard of it? There's a lot of people that theorize that like when humans were in their infancy, if you will, before we were writing and before we were like telling stories through art, during the oral history part, as you said in your summary, during that time it's very mysterious what things were like. You know, we have to use our imaginations to kind of fill in the gaps, and so there could have been like, you know, our own tales tell of unicorns and dragons and like, you know, these like mythical things.
I love dragons.
You know, yeah, I love dragons too. And you know, so we have all these like ideas, you know, no one's ever to this day, as far as I know, uncovered unicorn bones or dragon bones, you know, other than dinosaurs, which actually when they discovered them thought that these were bones of dragons, like, you know, which is interesting. But there's a lot of that.
Imagine
and
the
so
freak
it was
out.
wonderful.
Imagine being the first person to find like like a dinosaur skeleton. Like
it's really like freak out. It's
oh my
like,
god!
oh my god, we found a dragon. Yeah, it's true. Dragons are real. Holy shiitake mushrooms.
Dragon.
I don't know why it's a British person that discovered it, but anyways, it could have, you know, easily been someone in India. But there's tales like this. I grew up hearing stories about ancient India that my mother would tell about princes and princesses who made the stars and things like that. And my own name, in fact, my name Sohail is the name of a star in the sky. And so there's like all these legends around that as well, which are really interesting. But they all come from this time before written, you know, communication, before like things were written down and passed on in a more exact way. And I love that that's what we were seeing here with the Abathawa tribe and their legend of how the stars came into being. And it reminded me of a story about the Taino Indians who occupied who were the natives of the Caribbean when when Columbus's ships first started to come over to the New World. At first, many of the Taino Indians saw the sails on the horizons and thought that they were clouds. They had no idea. Their perception just didn't understand ships of that size, you know, of that scale. And it wasn't until the ships were almost right there in their backyard that they could tell that these were ships. They just thought they were like these weird clouds on the horizon. So that's what this reminds me of, in the sense that like the Abathawa tribe thought that the night was something really dangerous, and they didn't understand how to navigate, and they thought that if you couldn't do a trip in a day, that all these like kind of superstitious ideas. And so I just love that like it all ties into that kind of thing. Is like at some point humans started perceiving the stars. Like there was a point where we just started realizing, oh crap, like these little bright dots in the sky, what the heck are those, you know? And it probably coincided with the development of our eyes, you know, like as humans developed and their eyesight got better, because you know everything evolved in us. Like certain prehistoric humans didn't have the kind of eyes that could perceive faint star-like things. So at some point in our own evolution, we saw the stars. They just appeared out of nowhere, even though they were always there. And that's what it kind of reminded me of when I saw this story. So I just loved it. I thought it was very deep.
Well, now you put it that way, I kind of think about the Voyager episode Blink of an Eye.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Voyager appears around the planet, and then everyone was thinking like, "Oh, that's a mighty god." And then how the centuries going on and everything, and it's like they realize actually, there's a whole universe out there, and that poor ship just stranded in our orbit or something. It certainly is interesting as a story, and I kind of kept reminding myself like, how the episode starts out that Burnham cannot sleep and baby Burnham cannot sleep, and can I get some light and everything, and the father just like tells a essentially grim story, grim fairy tales to Burnham in a more native fashion, saying that hey, here we have Brethwood who went into the forest and found some really interesting person who gave her a weapon, and then with this weapon she made the lights, and bad snake just disappeared, and essentially you have a really creepy character who freaks you out when you're a kid, and then you get something as a I don't know the words, but you find something that basically
You're like the next episode, like in Dark Page, where you're used to communicating telepathically,
and then I have to make the creepy look.
But I think I know what you mean. Though.
It's like something that really just I don't know. I have it in my tip of the tongue, but I just don't know. But it's nice, it's interesting. It kind of reminded me of a grim fairy tale that you tell to your children before she or he goes to sleep. I find it a bit. It was okay. Of course, you have like 7 to 10 minutes in this episode to deal with. But yeah, it was nice to see that how she was afraid to sleep in the dark, and then finally just like, oh, I don't need the illuminations anymore. No, it was a cute episode. I didn't get too much touched by it, but it was a nice time for having some history, having some fairy tale story in it, and seeing a little bit of Burnham's life pre-discovery. That was good.
It actually added a lot of sadness for me. It just reminded me when I saw Burnham with her dad that she's a tragic character. As a child, she lost her mother and her father. Then she has to go to this adopted family. She's a human on a planet that's very judgmental towards humans or non-Vulcans, and she has to go through all of that. And then she basically tells Spock off and rejects him, and creates this huge rift between them that isn't solved until we see it solved in her life. And then now she's lost in time and space looking for her mother. She's trying so desperately to connect with her past and her family and all that stuff, and she's just I just really love that this adds that kind of color to the character of Burnham, and it just made me think about that as well.
No, it is true. That more and more comes into the line with the idea that they want to do with Discovery at the first time, because I remember at the beginning like, the show is not going to focus on one crew, just one person, and we're going to see the show from that person's perspective. Certainly this little episode helps understanding more of that initial idea that basically we are following the life of Michael Burnham through the adventures of Discovery and the crew and everything, but essentially they are secondary characters in a sense, if you know what I mean. So it was an interesting time, but I don't think I'm gonna watch it again.
Father Burnham also says in the episode that the people of the Abathwa tribe were the first people, so he believes that they are the first humans, which would not be inconsistent with the archaeological record showing that human civilization really did begin in Africa. So it is possible that a tribe very similar to the Abathwa is where we all came from, and I really like that that's kind of presented in there as well.
What's fantastic about this? Sorry.
No, I just wanted to... Sorry.
Go.
Go on.
What's fantastic about this is it doesn't like you can't get mad about continuity or coherence or anything because it's a tale that is told from the perspective of a father to his child, right?
Yeah.
So there's no right.
Well,
there's
we can
no
assume
right or
that.
wrong.
Yeah,
right?
and we can assume that Father Burnham was told the same story when he was a kid.
Exactly.
By it's like a similar thing where it's a story that looks like it's been passed on
So
from generation
if
to
we
generation.
were to one day discover that the first people ever like discovered on Earth were, because at this point I'm pretty sure they were in Africa, but if we were to discover that the first people were, I don't know, in Sweden or something, like it wouldn't necessarily disprove this episode or the tale, because it's just part of, you know, kind of just it's just a story that you tell.
Yeah, it's
and
a
it's part of the
folktale.
legend.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty. It's all. I can't speak. I'm not a scientist, but it's almost certain fact that humanity, as we know it, started out in Africa. So there's no possibility of another discovery at this point because they've done all the
I was just
trace
saying. But
trace
since
route.
since it's a
gotcha,
tale,
gotcha.
since it's like a
Gotcha,
legend, you can't really have like you can't. And then it's also like you can't get like if they were to show a dragon or something, you know, kind of very fantasy-esque in just a regular episode of Star Trek, maybe people would be a little reticent. They'd be like a little, oh, okay, maybe they're going a little overboard. But you can do this with this kind of thing because it is a tale. I would love to see more of these, but for alien species. I would love to see Klingon parents or Bajoran parents.
Andorians.
Telling.
We need more Andorians or Tellarites.
I was thinking maybe more spiritually inclined people. That's why I say Klingons or Bajorans, that kind of stuff. Talk about, you know, just folk tales and kind of like myths and legends and things that have happened in their culture or their planet to their children.
I would love to see this same story told from the perspective of the Binars.
The zeros and the ones.
Yeah.
You want them to tell this story?
Their origin story would be wonderful.
Okay.
If that would
like
be an
little-
option, I think a Cardassian historical show would be fun as well. Because I remember in DS9 they
Yeah.
always said like, oh, the Cardassians before the war and before the military took over the whole planet, they had a rich spiritual culture and they just kind of forget about the whole thing. I would be interested
That would be so interesting.
to see like what
That would
was
be
their
interesting.
culture before. That would be super amazing.
Absolutely.
And you can
But we
you
all know
wouldn't
that
be able
Star
to
Trek
make
is
mistakes
very-
because that's totally unknown for us. So it
It's true. But we all know that Star Trek is very human-centric. It's very racist. It needs to evolve
Yes.
a little bit and
A little bit?
include other species.
Yeah. To be
We
quite
need
honest,
stories.
generally speaking, the short treks is a missed opportunity to bank on alien species and go outside the box.
I agree.
To
think
continually
they
go
could
back
go
to the
further.
Discovery well and the human character well is maybe a little bit. I'm not saying all of these short treks are terrible. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that.
I was being facetious, by the way, when I said that Star Trek is racist. I don't think they're intentionally racist.
No, I think it's just. Well, I think that there was a time in entertainment where, you know, it's all about having the character relate. Like you have to having the audience relate. You have to relate to it. So if you send off a ship of Vulcans doing Vulcan things, maybe no one will relate to this. You want to see humans and humans' perspective. But I think that we've gone past that at this point. I think that now everyone would be completely okay with a Klingon show, just Klingons
Oh,
doing
of
Klingon
course.
things, defending the Klingon border against whatever kind of species that's attacking them. Like the Hurk come back, and they have to fight them, or just a show about the Hurk back in the day and how they were like kind of enslaved and lost that war. I think
I'm ready for
or having the Gorn or
Klingons
the
to take a
Orient
rest.
Syndicate
I
or
want-
any of these old foes,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
coming
But
back.
yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying. In principle, I agree with you. Yes.
I think that people would be fine with that. I think that a lot of people would watch an Orion Syndicate show. If you were to follow,
Especially because the Orions are so sexy.
okay,
They're
all of
very
the
sexy
Orions are
people.
sexy, be it the males or the
Yes.
females. It's also a very feminist or female empowering show. So in the current climate, it'll work because, as we know from Enterprise, it's the females that are running the show. It's also got I don't know. It's got green hot
And Discovery
sexy girls
reinforces
and green
that.
hot sexy guys.
Discovery
so
actually
people are gonna love
reinforces that in the short. Discovery reinforces that idea in the short treks that we saw with Mud that you mentioned earlier. So
Which is
I mean,
again,
I
it's a
think-
bit of an inconsistency because well, actually not. Hang on.
that. No, it's fine.
No,
That
it's
worked
okay
fine.
because
Everything
by
Orion
the
worked
time
fine.
when they got to TOS, I remember that they don't really.
Did you guys really call it toss?
Huh?
Just toss?
TOS.
Is it? If you say toss, does that mean I have to say Tanig? Tanig?
What?
Tanig for TNG? Ting? Is TNG Ting?
No, I say the next generation, but I say toss just because it comes out easier.
Yeah.
But we could say Ting, right?
But I
we
don't.
could just
I don't
say,
say.
hey,
I
and
don't say
Ting.
like. I don't say ent. Or
Ent,
or
yeah,
voy.
we could say Ent, Voy, Ting, Toss.
I
No, I'm just
never
kidding. I'm
said
giving you a
out
hard
loud
time.
any of these. And like TNG you say, DS9 you say, but when
TOS you
it's
say
Enterprise or Voyager you just
I
say
see
them.
TNG sometimes. TNG sometimes I say, but I don't know. I say the next generation mostly.
But yeah, usually for
Alright, sorry.
TOS we say TOS, right?
Anyway, I preferred this one to Ephraim and Dot. I think I prefer the animation style of Ephraim and Dot because I think that if you're kind of there's always when you try to do photorealism, especially with faces. Well, this isn't so much photorealism. It's just like when you try to go in the direction of realism. I find that it's the animation always becomes a little kind of weird, and you're kind of in that uncanny valley kind of situation. Whereas if you do it completely animated, like completely like wacky style or whatever, completely cartoonish, then you don't have that. So I prefer the animation style of Ephraim and Dot. But this was a beautiful story, and I like that.
Very cool. What was the what did you guys think of the alien? I thought it was cool to see something that didn't have arms and legs and a head. In
Someone
the
saw Saru's
style.
face in it.
Really?
Apparently,
I mean,
there's
you can see a
Saru's
lot of
face
weird
in the
things
body of
this
the alien.
Nah.
Oh, interesting.
No, that was a really,
Oh,
really
interesting. I
subtle
didn't see
face,
that.
but it wasn't Saru. At least I didn't recognize Saru at all. I was looking for like conceptual human-like features, like where's the eye, where's the mouth, or something. But you can't see anything
But
moving
it
inside.
wasn't
It's just
really
like
present, yeah.
really like pale, darker spots on top of his head. But I think the alien was fine. I mean, it was something
I thought it was
finally
cool.
something
the ship
new.
was
You know,
really cool. Yeah,
something
yeah,
finally
it was
new
really
and
neat to see it.
groundbreaking for groundbreaking, something new that we haven't seen before. Even
The
if it
short
was
treks in
It'd be
itself is
interesting.
groundbreaking. The concept
what's
of
that?
the concept of the short treks show in itself is groundbreaking. I will
It's
say. that.
groundbreaking. I agree. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I really like the alien design. I hope we see them in live action, like the same alien.
No, I want
in an
a
animated series,
modern
maybe.
day HD treatment of Species 8472 one day. I want to see these guys on the big screen, and I want to see them looking fine.
I just triggered you.
I wanna see
triggered
them
you.
hot.
He's like,
Because the CG in Voyager is pitiful. I love Voyager, but anyway.
well, we agreed that both Deep Space Nine and Voyager deserve a
absolutely.
A remastering
Absolutely.
and an HD treatment. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
that's
would give
definitely
up the Pike show
I think we agree on.
for that.
I will give up everything from Discovery.
Actually,
Everything.
I'm not an advocate of the
Wow.
Pike show. I know a lot of people are on the Pike kind of bandwagon, and I love Anson Mount. He's my hero. I want to be his son, and I want to live with him. I think he's fantastic. Everything he does is so cool. He tweets about everything. Like everything he tweets is so cool. Like the other day, he was like, yesterday he sent out a tweet. He was like, I'm sleeping in a bedroom
Oh,
where
yeah, I've
there's
seen
like
that.
first edition D&D rulebook. I'm like, God, this guy knows his D&D and shit. Like, he's so awesome.
He's also very
Adopt
kind
Misa.
and generous to the fans, which is really cool too. He really engages.
And just
I've gotten a
Pike,
couple of
I
likes
feel like he is
from Anson,
Pike.
which is
He
really nice.
embodies Starfleet.
And since we're talking about Anson Mount, I encourage the audience to check out the Well podcast. It's a podcast that I really enjoy listening to. It's Anson Mount and his dear friend, longtime friend Brandon Edgens. and they just do a great job. It's a podcast. I don't know how to describe it except to say that it's a podcast about creativity, and it's very inspirational and aspirational. They get real. They get real, not just real, but real.
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 I have, before we end the discussion on the girl who made the stars, I have a question about Ephraim and Dot.
Oh boy.
Okay, let's go back.
Who's doing the space, the final frontier?
That's a very good question.
Oh, I should have looked it up. That's a really good question.
Because it's
Let's look
not
it
Sir
up.
Patrick Stewart, is it?
No.
No.
It was someone doing like a kind of Kirkland impression of a kind of knockoff version of Sir Patrick Stewart, wasn't it?
No, I didn't get that vibe. I actually thought it might have been J.G. Hertzler for a second, the way the voice sounded, but I'm not. Now we're gonna look it up though.
Okay.
Oh, it's Kirk R. Thatcher.
It's Kirk R. Thatcher, which is a very funny name, Mr. Kirk. And he was in Star Trek. He was a producer for Star Trek: The Voyage Home. He didn't notice the A.
Dude worked on the movie. Damn it. Maybe
God
he
damn
did.
it.
Maybe he did, Mr. Starfleet boy, Mr.
Hey,
Captain Boy.
it's not-
Maybe he did. Maybe he said there shouldn't be an A there, and someone said, "Well, fuck off."
He's done a lot of work with the Muppets. It looks like his directorial stuff. He did the Muppets Kodachrome, Jim Henson's Turkey Hollow, the Muppets The Jungle Boogie. Lots of short stuff. He's very well known as a director, writer, producer, and he has 9 acting credits. Spider-Man: Homecoming. He plays the punk on the street.
punk on the bus on Star Trek 4.
That's him?
That's him. Yeah.
Wow.
And funny enough,
Because I hate you, and I berate you, and I can't wait to
small
get to
little
you.
Easter egg for him, because he appears, I think, one of the Spider-Man movies, and he basically
He's a punk on the street.
Punk on the street, will have the same radio, listen to the
It's
same
in-
music.
What?
Wow.
Or
This
something.
dude is
Yeah.
he's like the cameo punk.
He's the cameo punk.
He was
That's so
also in
cool.
Gremlins 2, which I love. So yeah, awesome little. Hey, I'm glad you asked about that.
What's his
Sean,
name?
'cause
Kirk T. Punk.
Thatcher.
Kirk R. Thatcher.
Kirk R. Thatcher.
Thatcher. Oh, I love this guy.
Yep.
Punkman.
Nice. All right, so Kirk R. Thatcher, you're pretty cool.
I give you a 10.
Sean gives you a 10.
So what do
I
you give to
you-
the episode?
I give you a 10 as well. All right, so what are we giving? Oh, I guess it's me to go first. Are we ready to rate anything else about the girl who made the stars? I do have one nitpick. I said online that I had one nitpick. If I'm wrong, tell me about this, but I thought we discovered tardigrades in Discovery later. Why does Kid Burnham have a tardigrade plush toy? I get it. I know it's not supposed to be like literal, but
I think that people in Star Trek, the universe, knew about tardigrades at the same time we knew about tardigrades. We've known about tardigrades for years. They just didn't know about big, giant space blue / green / maybe brown ones floating in space. So she has a giant-sized plush toy of a tardigrade that would be a miniaturized one. It's only later that all of a sudden there's a big one that appears. But this is just me trying
except
to
it
explain
looks
it off.
exactly like
I think
it looks like Ephraim, but that's okay.
I think they were just doing a bit of a nod.
But that, yeah, I agree. I
think they
agree.
should
I'm just
have
saying,
nodded in
if
a
I had to
different direction.
nitpick,
They should have done a different little toy. They should have done another
I-
Maybe
thing
like
we
a
know.
Targ or something. Not Targ because it's Klingon, but something
that
else.
would have been kind of, yeah. Actually, that
horrible.
would have been bad for
I
Burnham.
love these
Poor
Klingon
thing.
things.
She's
Klingon parents. Oh no.
killer bear. She does love Klingon things, by the way, because later on when she's an adult, she really loves Ash Tyler.
the
He's a
Klingon,
Klingon
yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean,
He is a Klingon thing. He's not a Klingon.
She
He's a
likes
Klingon
his
thing.
things when they're not Klingon.
That is an accurate statement. I can't argue
Because
with that.
I mean,
I cannot
to
argue.
be fair, there might be too many things if you're going Klingon.
And on that note, we probably have talked about too many things that we shouldn't on this episode of Starfleet Boy. So I give this episode a 9. I really loved it. I was very charmed by it once again. I enjoyed the animation. I love this animation style. I'm a big fan of the Pixar house style, and I feel like this was definitely in that same style. The renderings and all the shading and everything was done just beautifully and impeccably.
It ain't no Coco.
It ain't no Coco. That's
not.
true, but it has that vibe in many respects. And then I love. We didn't talk about it, but I love that Burnham sees herself as the little girl, and that when the character of the little girl is the same, it's her, it's Burnham, and so you can tell that like this is a very meaningful story to her. One thing that I did notice, I was curious if you guys noticed the picture frames in the back on her headrest behind her bed. She only had pictures of her and Papa Burnham. There was no pictures of Mama Burnham, so I thought that was really
that's
weird.
true. That's true. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I thought that was a little weird, but whatever. An interesting question. Anyways, 9 for me. I really enjoyed it. I think kids of all ages, maybe not too young because they get scared of the snake thing and some of the other parts, but a lot of kids will enjoy this. But I think this is one where, as an adult, I also enjoyed it. I liked all the deep kind of meaning, the subtext.
I think, and this is an assumption that I'm going to make, and maybe someone will correct me, but I think that no kid will ever find themselves watching a Star Trek short treks. I think that kids might get into Star Trek by watching the shows that are going to, like the Nickelodeon show that'll come out, but that the short treks is kind of like in the future, 20 years from now, the short treks is a show that you'll kind of fall into once you've seen a lot of Star Trek shows and you've become a fan and you're searching for more Trek. I feel like that's how you're going to stumble into these short treks, and then you're going to watch
I'm not a parent, so I can't say, but I would definitely show this, respective of their ages, I would show this to my children. I would
like, unless the parent specifically takes the time to show it to the kid, yeah.
Right, but I think there's a lot of parents that would do that. This isn't something that
you stumble upon when coming.
But that's kind of... I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I didn't stumble upon shows. Like, I was very supervised, and I feel like I would raise my children the same way. I wouldn't put my kid in front of a TV or a computer and say, explore. I think it's very dangerous. I would guide them, and so I think everything would be curated by me for my kid. But that's how I am. I respect you if you have a different view, but I just feel like kids don't stumble upon stuff.
My view is your kid should be watching Lady and the Tramp.
They will. They will. The kid will.
That is my view.
Don't worry. Uncle Sean, the kid will. The fantasy kid, my cat. For now, I have to show my cat all these things.
Don't show your cat Lady in the Tramp.
All right. So my rating is a 9.
Okay.
You're next, Sean. You're next.
I give it a 7.
That's higher than Ephraim and Dot. Very nice.
Gary?
I gave it a weak 8. I'm gonna give it a weak 8 again.
Oh, he's again with the weeks.
No, it was nice.
Well,
the animation, and on just one note on the animations, I prefer the animation style in this one. So it was more refined and more, in a sense, it was more focused and consistent, coherent than the Ephraim and Dot was. I felt it was, as I mentioned in a couple of minutes ago, it was more like 3D, 2D kind of clashing together.
Awesome. That's what Duck Dodgers used to do. They had like a 3D ship, but
that was still wasn't as strongly advertised, let's say, in the show that it was advertised here. So it was a comfortable balance between the 3D and the 2D. Now with this one, it's all 3D.
Duck Dodgers did it right.
It's Duck Dodgers is brilliant, and please do not reboot any of these because that was just fantastic as it was. But yeah, no, it was great, and like I'm pretty sure a couple of people will have a problem with it all. Like this day and age they could have done much better because a little bit the animation style felt for me like an early 2010 like kind of video game style for like doing a trailer for a video game or something. It was still nice.
You mean the girl who made the stars? You think it was?
Yeah, that was more like a video game intro style from like GTA. Los Santos or something. I don't know, one of those.
But for those that have seen Love, Death, Robots,
I love
which
that.
is a collection of short kind of animations on Netflix. Some of the animation styles are like this one here. So it is a thing that I think people are used to. It's fine. I think that it's just video game animation has gotten so good over the years now that
No, and
it's kind of treading in the territory of shows now.
and just to save myself from future trouble, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just I'm just pointing it out that it's interesting. But in a sense, I totally understand that you don't have to go like super crazy detailed with these things anymore. I mean, when Up came out, one of the animators said, and I totally understood him. Like, you know, how they made the figures and everything. They did what they did with the figurines. They didn't really concentrate on that. They concentrated on the external effects, like how the you could actually feel the materials that the clothing was made of, or the curtains, or the anything. So the surroundings is, you can feel that it's, the animation doesn't have any boundaries these days, because you can literally do whatever you want. It's more like the story that you have to sell.
You can get a free software called Blender. And
yeah, I know.
Do this almost in your. Are you Blender? You use Blender?
I am learning Blender. Yeah.
Nice. Oh my god, I have to talk to you offline about a project maybe. Okay. Anyways, go on.
But it's not nothing serious yet. So don't get too excited.
And I'm not too. Don't worry, I'm not too excited or too serious.
So if you have like a super idea, like we can do it in about 6 years time. I'm sure.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Anyways, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gary.
No, that's it.
Your train of thought.
No, that's it. I mean, I think I'm finished. I equally as both of you, I enjoyed the episode. It was nice. You know, nothing really to nitpick about, because there's, I mean, you can the target audience. Who is this for? And is this for equally for a father with kids, equally for a parent and a child, and equally for a child that you want to see, or even for a parent who wants to see this, but they don't necessarily have to be a Star Trek fan to watch this episode.
Agreed.
And quote unquote, it's good. So I'll give a.
You sure you don't want to make your 8 more solid?
Okay, a solid 8.
Than a weak 8?
A rock
Yay!
solid 8. There you go.
Sean's having trouble hearing us, I think. I think Sean's having trouble.
No,
Are you hearing us, Sean?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you too loud. It's screaming in my ears now.
Oh, gosh. That means the audience, I'm too loud too, so I'll calm my voice down. So we wrap this episode up by saying that my very strong 9 and solid 8 from Gary, and a 7. Did you give it a 7, Sean?
I'll give it a 7.
So we can give it a high 8, a strong 8. Is that fair?
Oh my god, you just still don't like use a calculator for these things?
give it a fair 8.
A fair 8. It's a fair 8. Not to be mistaken with hate. There's no H in front of 8.
There isn't.
I want to solid 8 actually. Yeah.
Nice.
If you add them together, the solid 8.
I want to say that I think that based on our discussion of these two, that overall in general, not a bad return to animation for Star Trek. Very interesting, very compelling, and no, right? Like this is actually
I just kind of had this image in my head when Kirk, Scotty, and Chekhov came up from the turbo lift in an Enterprise Bay, and he asked them like, "Hey, what do you think about the ship?" And I was like, "It's good. It's actually good. You know, like this is how we feel right now."
Yeah, it's true. It is pretty good. Agreed. And so solid return to animation for Star Trek. I have been dying to see animation in Star Trek more. We are being promised the Nickelodeon show and Lower Decks coming up, so I think it's awesome. There's going to be another we already got Star Trek back after a 12-year hiatus with Star Trek Discovery, and now we're about to go into Star Trek Picard, which, as you know, I'm super hyped about.
Really?
But now we also
your clothing doesn't show at all.
Doesn't show that at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
But now we have an experimental. Animation has always been an experimental format, and you can do things that you can't do in live action in animation, and so we got a few hints of the potential of that here, and so I look forward to more. And that's it. That's all I got to say about that. Audience, thank you for joining us. Please visit Trek on the Tube and Trekker Prize. Trekker Prize is on hiatus at the moment, but there are little bits that come out here and there. But definitely follow both of these fine gentlemen on Twitter.
What?
Did I say Trek on the Tube is on hiatus? I meant Trekker Prize. Did I say Trek on the Tube was on hiatus?
No, you said Trekker Prize, but you did say that little bits were coming out now and then.
I was trying really hard to keep to keep this episode PG-13. I think we were successful. That's it. We're done. We're done with that episode. So I'm going to stop the recording now.